I'm heading over to St. Michael's just for the hell of it. Look at the beautiful clouds today. It had been overcast and gloomy earlier, and you still see some evidence of that, but shaping up to be a beautiful day, beautiful afternoon. I haven't been to St. Mike's in, I don't know, a few months. It's not my favorite cemetery around here for a variety of reasons. Some of the land is pretty beautiful, but a lot of it just looks like, I don't know, ghetto. Nevertheless, I had made up my mind at some point that that's where I was going to end up, in one of the mausoleums. There's a cat for you. And I had pretty much settled on it. I even went so far as to make an appointment with one of the sales reps. And he didn't tell me anything I didn't already know or that I didn't expect, that they have no inventory. They're sold out. But at the time they were building the new mausoleum, the St. Mary, which for the longest time I thought said St. Mark, which would be perfect, wouldn't it? They finally opened it. I think it was like a year behind schedule. And I really just don't like it. That's where I was thinking I'd wind up if I made my plans, now. But that place started filling up quickly because of COVID. There's a saying, God is merciful, or referring to the merciful as a possessive, the merciful possessed by God. But I did have an interview with a sales rep, and it turned into a conversation about flipping. He said people will buy up dozens and dozens of these things and hold on to them for a couple of years, then resell them at a profit when space becomes scarce enough. And as this conversation evolved, I did actually start thinking about doing that, but I just couldn't see that there'd be enough of a profit in it to make it worthwhile. And it wasn't. It also was not like a revelation to me that Mausoleum Niches is a favorite typo, employment. It wasn't news to me that this happens, because if you look for a burial site on eBay, you'll find them up for sale. And it makes perfect sense. I mean, people make their arrangements, but things change. You end up in another part of the world. So it makes sense that you'd want to make appropriate use of that plot of land. At the end of the day, it's just a piece of real estate. This isn't exactly the most beautiful entryway to a cemetery, but the gate itself is all right. But the surrounding area, this is a little sketchy. There's an auto body shop here, so that's why you have all these wrecked cars. The gate itself this gate is relatively new. The real entrance, I think, is on Astoria Boulevard, though, or the official entrance. and let perpetual light shine on them. But that statement begins over here on the left side of the gate. Eternal rest grant unto them, O Lord. That's the new mausoleum. It says St. Mary's, but for the longest time I thought it said St. Mark's. And I thought this is where I was going to buy a spot. And maybe it still will be, I don't know. I've changed my mind multiple times about this being cremated, or then I'd settled on being buried at sea, thinking that was more of an equalizer, where you're not competing for real estate space and trying to make yourself look better than somebody interred or buried next to you. But then it turns out that there's all this crazy set of rules about it, and it's expensive. I can't just, like, my friend offered to do it for me. He has a boat. He said he'd do it for free, but wouldn't want to get him in trouble for doing it the wrong way. St. Joseph is one of the ones I thought I might end up here too, but this is the one where they're totally out of space. And they're probably sold out at St. Mary's already. I think the COVID crush caused them to run out of inventory quicker than expected. But you know what else? I just don't like this mausoleum. Inside, I don't know, it just feels like an office building, an office complex. So here you have, this is how it looks. This is how it works. This is basically a glorified morgue. But what I really prefer is the Columbarium Niches, which we'll see in a second. These spots get cheaper and cheaper the higher up you go. I don't know what they cost. I never looked into this option. Look, the sun is coming out. So once you're inside, you get a mix of these things. These are niches with the cremation box or cremation urn. And some of these displays get pretty creative. But they share space with the full body remains. This is a non-denominational cemetery, I believe. I'm actually not sure about that. Don't take my word for it. The flowers are all supposed to be artificial because there's a pretty credible theory that the West Nile virus got its start at cemeteries in New York, with all the standing water and the vases with natural flowers. I mean, that rule applies more to outdoor locations, of course, but I guess this guy was a rock star. My idea in getting one of these niches was to put a mirror in the back. Try to get one at this eye level for people of normal height. Just to give yourself something to think about, that you're looking at yourself in the mirror. and that you're next. He got his martial arts certificate of completion. I also wanted to leave something handwritten in my niche, handwritten by me. And there's a box that I have that I made when I was a kid, a wood box. And it contains pictures of every woman I ever loved, or as many pictures as I could possibly accumulate. It's not a bad little structure as on top of everything else. I like the light fixtures up there. And the music isn't bad either. Not much of a view, if you ask me. But what does that matter? The stained glass isn't bad though. So this niche is like this cabinet is like half empty, but all these have been sold. You can really lose yourself in a place like this. This development of these, or the expansion of the sales of these niches has really saved the funeral industry. It's absolutely skyrocketed. Oh, this woman, I remember this one. She lived right down the street from here. So I've discussed at some length the mystery of Socrates Sculpture Park, which, according to a reliable source, is surrounded. About a third of the perimeter of the park is surrounded by stones that came from this cemetery. And what happened was, back in the 80s, new ownership took over this cemetery, and their first order of business was to knock over a whole bunch of tombstones, throw them in the back of a truck, and haul them off to what was at the time an illegal dumping ground. And that dumping ground later became Socrates Sculpture Park, and when they broke ground on it, they found all these tombstones, and they said, hey, let's use them to build the wall around the park. And after they knocked down all those tombstones, the story goes that they threw 6 feet of dirt on top of them, on top of the old burials, intending to sell new burials on top of the old ones. And if this story is true, this might be that 6 feet of dirt that they were talking about, because there are no burials here. What allegedly happened was word got out about the knocking down of the tombstones, and the community board swooped in, and there was all this outrage, and they were never allowed to sell new burials on top of the old ones. I've never found anything to corroborate this. It was said to have been reported on, but in the press, but I wouldn't think it would have been reported on by any of the big sources. Certainly there's never been anything about it in the New York Times or any of those outlets. It would have been in like the hyper-local Queens Chronicle type of thing. I gotta be careful about this video. I'm not sure I'm allowed to be doing this, and there's a pretty aggressive security squad around here. It's one of the main reasons I don't like this cemetery much. There used to be a whole bunch of roosters out here. I haven't seen them in a long time though. They were kind of a shock to see, but I later learned it's not that uncommon for animals of all sorts to thrive in places like this, but roosters seem to be especially common for some reason. Or I don't know, maybe that's just some shit that I read somewhere. Oh, look at that. Oh, I thought that was my name. 1 letter short. I did finally find my last name on a tombstone, but I've still never seen my full name. I actually have 2 options for free burials, should I choose to accept them, or one of them. One is at the National Cemetery in, is it Bushnell? In Florida, the military cemetery where both my parents are buried, and they told me I could have a spot if I wanted one, which I don't think I do. And the other free option would be the Thomas Family Cemetery out in Raytown, Tennessee, which is way the hell out in the middle of nowhere. Beautiful, beautiful country though. God's country, they call it. I did go out there one time. And it was a beautiful spot, but I'm just not real connected to my extended family. Doesn't seem like, just doesn't seem appropriate somehow. Oh, here it is. Here it is. This is one of my favorite markers I've ever found in New York or anywhere. Jane Fowler Jones. Book of Shed Not For Me the Tear, in memory of Jane Fowler Jones, who died June 12, 1902. Age 68 years. I can't read the next line. The unknown deeps. There are deeps we cannot fathom in the blue sunlighted sea, though we mark each surface ripple, all beneath is mystery. Thus the soul may seem as tranquil as a sea without a wave, while there are to the unopened deeps as secret as the grave. Cast into the sea a pebble, cast into the heart a word. It is all alike, thou canst not know what mighty deeps are stirred. Makes you ask what secret she took to the grave, right? Let's go over to the other mausoleum. This next mausoleum feels like a shopping center. This was one of the early finds I made when I started exploring this place. That's not a cremation urn, it's way too small. There's a term for it, I forget what it's called, but that's the urn they put there when there are no remains. This dude was cremated as the world watched on live television. See, a real cremation urn is like 3 or 4 times the size of the one in here. This is the niche that made me want to do this, that made me want to set up a niche instead of an in-ground burial. I had always assumed I'd end up at Calvary. Even though they claimed they were out of space, I always knew that was not true. But this woman, I'd never found anything on her, but I guess she used to be a costume designer or something. And this was the one that really opened my eyes to the possibilities of the creative stuff you could do with this little bit of space. I never did find anything on her, though. Although I haven't looked lately. So when I say this place feels like a shopping center, well, last time I was here there was running water in this space. I don't know, maybe it was somewhere else. There again, I like the light fixtures they have here. They have good taste. There's a sunroof. And there's the stick that you use to place flowers up on the higher ones. Okay, I hear voices. I'm going to stop recording now. This one's a bit of a mystery to me. Why would anybody go to the trouble and expense of being cremated and have their ashes put in an urn without putting your name on it? I mean, you make this choice yourself. And in this case, the mystery is extended a little bit by the presence of a McDonald's ring. Maybe he was a long-time employee and that was one of his rewards. Or her, or his. But yeah, why deliberately choose to have an unmarked grave? I don't know. Well, the Tolinos must have been some kind of royalty. Or maybe not. They got this whole corner suite. And the Romanos got a pretty swank. Pretty swank cutout too. Doesn't look like there's anybody here though. No trip to St. Mike's is complete without paying a visit to the Great One, by far the most famous burial here. I played a lot of ragtime for a while. There's so much of it. I mean, the quantity of that shit is infinite. So many composers you never heard of, and for good reason. But I think it's worth doing. I think it's worth exposing yourself to bad music so you can understand what makes the great ones great. One of these two mausoleums is the home of Frank Costello, the mobster. I'm not sure which one, which mausoleum. The one he was in was broken into once, and it's been sort of a source of controversy for a variety of reasons, but I don't really dig too deeply into mobster stuff. Dig too deeply, no pun intended. Some parts of this yard are actually quite beautiful, like this, and the fall colors don't hurt either. It's a scraggly tree up there. The sun's coming out, and it's quite beautiful here. There is a constant din of highway traffic, at least on this end of it. Calvary's the same way, with two highways on either side of it, not to mention Greenpoint Avenue. So this is the new one, which I think opened in January. And yet, for whatever reason, there are interments of people from years earlier. This building, they hadn't even broken ground on this building in 2015. The stained glass is pretty big. Impressive. And many of the cabinets are empty. This reminds me that I really need a haircut. I think it's been almost a year. I haven't gone that long without a cut since college. And this whole cabinet's completely empty. Yeah, and check out this beautiful view at the end of the hall. Stunning, right? Yeah, I really just am not attracted to this mausoleum at all. The other two I like a lot better, but if I had to make arrangements now, this would probably be my choice. It would have to be. It's 3 stories. Obviously a Larry Bird fan. Looks like there's lots of room, but I bet you they sold a lot of these already. If not all of them. Oh, look, there's a shot of Doers. And a pack of cigarettes. There's another rock star. Leonard Pogan. Yeah, a lot of these are... a lot of these deaths preceded the opening of this place by a long time. All right, I'm getting out of here.